Yunluo Academy. In the valley surrounded by mountains, there was a dense layer of mist. At the end of his sight, a waterfall that was tens of thousands of feet long poured down from the top of the mountain. It was like the Milky Way that had fallen into the 9 heavens. The water was sparkling and the silver waves were surging. It hit the green rock that was shining brightly underneath, causing layers of water to splash out. On the plains outside the gorge, numerous towering buildings had an ancient fragrance. Under the plaza that was enveloped by mist, the sound of students shouting in unison could be heard from time to time. Most of these students belonged to the outer court, and they were over 10 years old. Their faces were tender, and their strengths were low. Under the lead of their respective instructors, they cultivated the basic movements time and time again. Swoosh! Suddenly, a rainbow light flashed across the sky above everyone, and rushed towards the direction of the inner court. The restrictions set by the academy seemed to no longer exist in front of this rainbow light. Tisk tisk! It's a student from Realm in Valley. A young female teacher watched the rainbow light fly away and could not help but let out a low sigh. Her beautiful eyes shifted slightly and looked at the group of little students who were also stunned. She could not help but cry out in a lovely voice, waking the group of little children up. Instructor Yuan, who was that just now? The boy standing at the front had jet black hair and a pair of beautiful eyes. He couldn't help but ask. In his memories, even the outer court's elders didn't dare to fly in such a grand manner. After all, the academy's formation was extremely powerful. He should be a student of Realm in Valley, the most elite disciple of Yunluo Academy. His power is greater than some of the elders of the outer domain. The teacher named Yuan looked at the little boy lovingly and said in a low voice. Of course, if you guys cultivate well and enter the inner court, you will have a chance to become a student of the Realm in Valley after stepping into the Soaring Dragon ranking. At that time, the teacher will also have the honor of being a student of the Realm in Valley. Yuan's soft words were like a ball of flame that instantly ignited the passion in the hearts of many young students. Immediately, they rubbed their hands together and the sound of training became much louder. In midair, Xiaoyan directly flew in the direction of the inner academy. With his status as a student of Realm in Valley, he could go to most of the places in Yunluo Academy. It was naturally extremely normal for him to fly within the academy. I wonder how Lei Ying and Yan Jin are doing. Xiaoyan pursed his lips and thought. His speed once again increased a little. He was just like a star that had flashed across the sky. In an instant, he had disappeared from this part of the sky. You have finally returned. It has been quite some time. At the Technique Impartation Plaza. In the main hall where Su Ziyang was in, the former looked at Xiaoyan who was standing in front of him. There was no change in his expression as he spoke in a flat tone. It's quite long. Xiaoyan casually sat on a bamboo chair by the side. His gaze swept across Su Ziyang as he spoke. After arriving at the inner academy, he did not immediately look for Shu and and the others. After hesitating for a moment, he still found Su Ziyang first. He still needed to inform Lei Ying and Yan Jin about their arrangements. I have also seen your 2 companions. Putting away the documents in his hands, Su Ziyang changed to a more comfortable sitting position and looked at Xiaoyan with a smile that was not a smile. I heard that you went to Capital of Chaos. How was your harvest? He glanced at Su Ziyang. Xiaoyan did not hide anything from him. He told him everything he had encountered. Naturally, he had told him everything about the Realm Traversal Jade. This kind of thing involved Li Xianfeng, a heavenly sovereign-level expert. The fewer people who knew about it, the better. Kill the Spirit King? Good kid, not bad. After listening to Xiaoyan's description, Su Ziyang was obviously stunned. After a long while, he finally grinned and slowly said. The shock in his heart was even greater. The name of the Spirit King. He had heard of it before as well. As a veteran Emperor cultivation warrior, to an ordinary monarch Emperor level expert, it was a complete slaughter. The Mu Yuyang of the past. He was also being hunted by the Spirit King. He used all of his ultimate skills to stall the Spirit King for a while before he finally managed to escape. This guy in front of him had actually killed him directly. That monarch flame has really displayed its true strength in your hands. Shrugging his shoulders, Su Ziyang didn't feel ashamed at all and said straightforwardly. Xiaoyan was expressionless when he heard this. He clearly remembered how Su Ziyang had been so aggressive back then, but he admired the latter's personality. It was also because of this that the 2 of them could sit together and chat. By the way, what happened in Shao Clan? I don't think it's appropriate for me to ask Xiao Yi about it. You have been there before, so you should have found something. He pondered for a moment. Su Ziyang suddenly spoke. He looked at Xiao Yan and said with a heavy gaze, "What's wrong?" Xiao Yan's heart skipped a beat and he frowned slightly. You should know about the Thundercloud clan, right? Su Ziyang took a deep look at Xiao Yan and said a name that Xiao Yan was familiar with. Seeing Xiao Yan nod his head, Su Ziyang didn't waste any more time and said in a deep voice, "A few days ago, the ultimate treasure of the Thundercloud clan, the great profound strong wind thunder, was taken away by someone." What? Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan couldn't help but be stunned for a long time. The great profound strong wind thunder is an extremely rare lightning in the world. Although it can't be compared to the monarch flame, its power is still incomparably strong. It is a sacred item passed down from generation to generation in the Thundercloud clan. A few days ago, someone broke into the sacred land where the great profound strong wind thunder was hidden and snatched it away. The Thundercloud clan used all of their strength to let it escape. After hearing Su Ziyang's words, Xiao Yan couldn't help but suck in a cold breath of air. Since the Thundercloud clan had the ambition to replace the Shao clan, their strength was naturally not bad. He didn't expect that not a single intruder would be left behind. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan suddenly smiled. The Shao clan had lost the Golden Emperor Phoenix Heavenly Flame, and the Thundercloud clan had also lost their so-called sacred item, the Great Profound Strong Wind Thunder. The experiences of these two families were unexpectedly similar. Since they were able to steal the Great Profound Strong Wind Thunder from the Thundercloud clan, could it be the Heavenly Sovereign Expert? After thinking for a while, Xiao Yan spoke with uncertainty. It couldn't possibly be the ultimate saint expert, right? A supreme expert of this level, not to mention the Great Profound Strong Wind Thunder, even some of the lower-ranked monarch flames shouldn't be very attractive to them, let alone offending a large clan over a bolt of lightning. This is the reason why I asked you about what happened in Shao clan. That intruder's strength is extremely low, only at the Emperor cultivation, but his techniques are strange. Almost all of his techniques are ancient absolute arts. Su Ji leaned against the bamboo chair, his legs resting on the table. With his head resting on his arms, he told Su Ji all the information he knew. What does this have to do with the Shao clan? Xiao Yan's heart skipped a beat, as if he had thought of something. A vague figure appeared in his mind, and he spoke anxiously. That guy told me his name without hiding anything when he left. After sitting down, Su Ziyang spoke slowly with a solemn expression. He called himself Btth2, the supreme being who will rule this world in the future. It really is him. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan's eyelids twitched, and all his thoughts turned into reality. Although he had expected this, he was still shocked. Not only had this guy escaped from the Shao clan, he had also broken into the Thundercloud clan and taken away their ultimate treasure. He was truly audacious. Is this Btth the descendant of that old monster from the Shao clan? Or, is he the incarnation of that supreme expert? He calmed down. Su Ziyang looked at Xiao Yan and said in a deep voice. After hesitating for a while, Xiao Yan smiled bitterly and nodded slowly. It should be possible. Too, after listening to Xiao Yan recount what happened in Shao clan, Su Ziyang couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This Btth was truly a powerful man. Even with all the elders of Shao clan attacking him at the same time, he still managed to escape. I have heard the name of the old ancestor of Shao clan. The three sons of the old man were all heaven-defying geniuses. To be able to be valued by Senior Shao Taiching, that strange stone must be extraordinary as well. I never thought that it would be like this. Su Ziyang let out a long sigh, his tone full of emotion. He had just appeared, yet he already possessed such formidable strength. He had perfectly escaped from the eyes of all the mighty figures of Shao clan, and had also gone to the Thundercloud clan to seize the great profound strong wind thunder. In just a few short months, he had stirred up two major powers in the star domain. Personally, I think that Btth's emergence has something to do with you. After pondering for a moment, Su Ziyang suddenly spoke. He stared at Xiao Yan and said with hesitation, I have the same feeling, but what does it have to do with you? Xiao Yan didn't deny it. He spread his hands and sighed, but this feeling made him extremely confused. The elders of Shao clan should be able to think of this as well, but they didn't know about it. He had advanced from the fighting Qi continent. He had no connection with the Shao clan, so what kind of mysterious relationship could there be? No matter what, Shao Tianyi already has his hatred for the Shao clan. At that time, you might have to fight him for the sake of the Shao clan. The corner of Su Ziyang's mouth curled up slightly as he casually said, "For the sake of the Shao clan?" Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes and muttered in a low voice. He let out a cold snort and didn't say anything. "You must have found something in Capital of Chaos," Su Ziyang suddenly said. Xiao Yan frowned and looked at Su Ziyang without saying anything. He was also very curious. After he left, the Yunluo Academy had gathered many experts and showed them their strength. Why would a series of major events happen in Capital of Chaos? The Capital of Chaos was extremely xenophobic. This was something even he knew very well. In all these years, only the Mercenary Alliance, an external force, had entered the Capital of Chaos. However, during this period of time, even the Thundercloud clan had interfered. This had to be shocking. Black Nether Emperor suddenly appeared and led the group of Dark Underworld to annex countless small forces. He redefined the distribution and rules of the forces in the Capital of Chaos. This has never happened in the Capital of Chaos for thousands of years. We have yet to find out what exactly happened. Su Ziyang stood up from the bamboo chair and paced in the hall with his hands behind his back. What's even stranger is that there are a lot of old antiques in the Dark Nether army. None of these people objected to Black Nether Emperor's unusual behavior. Instead, they fully supported him. After saying that, Su Ziyang rubbed his forehead with his hand and heaved a long sigh. The situation in Capital of Chaos had changed, and the Yunluo Academy was mixed in. He didn't know whether it was good or bad. Xiao Yan's brows were knitted tightly. This was indeed very strange. The rules of Capital of Chaos had already been set by many experts before the chaotic scene. Now, although most of the experts had fallen, or they don't know where to go, but these rules are buried, too. No one had ever violated the rules of the Dark Emperor's group. Why did Black Nether Emperor show up at such a time? The Great Elder has already ordered people to investigate secretly. You don't have to worry about these matters. Waving his hand, Su Ziyang sat back down on the bamboo chair and looked at Xiao Yan. Those two friends of yours are also from the lower realm, right? I think their aptitude is pretty good, but their strength is too low. I have already arranged for them to go to the outer court and have given them abundant cultivation resources. As long as they can advance to the Sovereign Master realm as soon as possible, they will be able to enter the inner court. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan nodded without saying anything. He still believed in the talent of Lei Ying and Yan Jin. Given their abilities, it was only a matter of time before they advanced to the Sovereign Master realm. When they had the time, they would go to the outer court to take a look at the two of them. If you have time, go and see the Great Elder. During the time you left the Academy, the heavens sent a sacred message to you. The Academy also received a generous reward. The Great Elder used a supreme technique to condense the source of the Flame Spirit, which might be helpful for your cultivation. Flame Spirit origin? Xiao Yan was taken aback, and then his heart was filled with wild joy. The value of this item was comparable to the holy arts, and it was a holy item for those who cultivated the fire attribute. Not only could it increase the power of the fire attribute monarch skill, it could also increase one's strength. It also had an unimaginable improvement. Currently, his strength was at the second monarch emperor. If he could refine the source of the fire spirit, he would at least be able to reach the fourth monarch emperor. This was only for the lowest grade of the source of the fire spirit. If he were to talk about the essence grade of the source of the fire spirit, he didn't know how much his strength would increase. Refining the flame spirit origin requires a lot of effort and effort. I'll have to trouble you, Grand Elder. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Yan said in a low voice. This thing was almost as rare as the Grey Flame Iron. A heavenly sovereign expert required a great deal of effort in order to successfully condense. It was even harder to condense than a realm traversal jade. This gift was too heavy. Su Ziyang shrugged his shoulders and did not say anything. However, he felt rather emotional in his heart. The Great Elder had never personally met Mu Yuyang before. Instead, it was Xiao Yan who did not hesitate to spend a great amount of effort to refine the source of the flame spirit for the latter. Even he was quite surprised by this method. In the heavenly peak where Xiao Yan once lived, Xuan and Kai Lin were taking care of him. The scenery was beautiful, the birds sang and the flowers bloomed. It was much more exquisite than Mu Yiyu's Wei Yu Peak, and it also made the other students in the Heavenly Peak envious. They did not have enough time to cultivate every day, let alone spend time to take care of the flowers and plants in the Heavenly Peak. For a moment, the Heavenly Peak was named by the two girls as Wu Tan Peak. It became the most fascinating place in the entire inner courtyard. Swoosh! A stream of light flashed past, and Xiao Yan, who had bid farewell to Su Ziyang, landed directly on Wu Tan Peak. He didn't conceal his aura in the slightest, and was instantly noticed by the two girls. Mr. Xiao Yan? Xiao Yan! When they saw Xiao Yan, the two girls were naturally extremely excited. After a moment of warmth, Xuan could not help but raise her delicate and pretty face. Her watery eyes looked gently at Xiao Yan. Her small face turned slightly red because of excitement. Mr. Xiao Yan, she said. Is Xiao Xiao here? She had long regarded Xiao Xiao as her own daughter. The anticipation in her heart was not any less than Kai Lin's. Kai Lin's eyebrows twitched when she heard this. Her beautiful face could not help but look at Xiao Yan. She involuntarily tightened her grip on the latter's hand. The joy on Xiao Yan's face slowly dissipated when he heard this. Lei Ying and Yan Jin went straight to Xiao Yi. Under the latter's lead, Su Ziyang arranged for them to go directly to the outer court to cultivate. They did not see Ji Yu Yuan, Xuan and the others. Covering his mouth, Xiao Yan let out a long sigh. He didn't hide anything from them and told them everything that they had said. Xiao Xiao, my child. Before she could finish, Kai Lin's pretty face turned pale instantly. Her hand tightly grabbed onto Xiao Yan's arm and her vision turned black. She almost fainted. Xiao Yan reacted quickly and supported her, but he could not say anything to comfort her. He could comfort himself, but he could not stop Kai Lin from crying. The love of a mother to a child exceeded everything. How is this possible? Xuan'er's tears could not stop flowing. After waiting bitterly for so many days, what welcomed her was this news. It was like a bolt of lightning that completely shattered the yearning in the hearts of the two girls. Don't worry, I will definitely find Xiao Xiao. Xiao Yan gritted his teeth and hugged the two girls tightly. His voice was somewhat hoarse as he said. Too sobbing for a moment, Kai Lin lifted her head from Xiao Yan's arms. Her eyes, which were as calm as water, were exceptionally sharp at this moment. Xiao Yan, I have never begged you for anything. This time, I beg you. You must bring Xiao Xiao back alive. Xiao Yan nodded silently. His lips were tightly pursed. He was her husband and also Xiao Xiao's father. Even if he had to give everything, he must find Xiao Xiao. Seeing Xiao Yan nod his head, Kai Lin could not help but bury her head into Xiao Yan's arms and cry. She knew that this man in front of her had never disappointed her. Back in Fighting Qi Continent, it was still the same as before. Xuan'er's eyes were slightly red. As a mother, she understood Kai Lin's feelings. Thinking about it, Xuan'er could not help but hold Xiao Yan's arm tightly and quietly lean on the latter's shoulder, giving the embrace to Kai Lin. Heaven Pillar Peak Xiao Yan gently landed at the foot of the mountain. He looked at the huge mountain in front of him. He didn't know how long it had been, or how many secrets it had been hiding. It was like a huge pillar that held up the sky and supported the wind and rain of this academy for countless years. Swoosh! Xiao Yan slowly stepped forward and took out a black scroll. It was given to him by Su Ziyang before he left. The underground space of Yunluo Academy needed a special key to open it. Inside this black scroll, there was a special key. There was a key to the formation to remove the seal on the light screen. According to Su Ziyang, Xiao Yan tore the scroll and placed it on the ground. On the scroll was an extremely complicated formation. Looking at it deeply, it seemed to be able to sink one's mind into it. Swish! 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 Xiao Yan's 10 fingers flew. The origin qi in his body surged and gradually gathered at the tip of his fingers, forming afterimages in the space. In a few breaths' time, the origin qi at the tip of his finger was extremely dense. He suddenly pointed at the scroll on the ground. Immediately, the formation on it shone brightly, and a light screen that could be seen by the naked eye was formed. Crack, crack. The moment the light curtain appeared, the black scroll on the ground turned into a clear air and dissipated. The light curtain also shattered at this moment. A tunnel that led downwards suddenly appeared in front of Xiao Yan. Without the slightest hesitation, Xiao Yan directly walked in. Behind him, the entrance to the tunnel quietly disappeared. A mere ripple was emitted before it returned to normal. This wasn't his first time coming here. Under Su Ziyang's lead, he had already witnessed this scene. After a long while, the endless darkness in front of him suddenly dissipated. What replaced it was a bright red light. When he stepped out of the cave, he saw a wide open space in front of him. Under his feet was a pitch-black square and the surrounding red rock walls were towering. After isolating everything, the surroundings of the square, the crimson-red lava surged violently, the sound lingering in the air. The hall not far away was still standing, and in a trance. It was as if Xiao Yan had returned to the 4 academies competition, and it was right here. He had advanced to the monarch emperor, and so much time had passed. Although his strength had only reached the 2nd monarch emperor, his true strength. The difference was like night and day. "You're here." While Xiao Yan was lost in thought, an old and heavy voice sounded in the hall. At the same time, the door of the hall slowly opened, revealing the mystery behind it. Disciple Xiao Yan has come to pay a visit to the Great Elder. Xiao Yan bowed and said in a clear voice. His voice covered the sound of the surging magma. "I know a thing or two about the 4 academies competition. You have thwarted Yuve Mu's plan. You have done a good job." A heavy voice sounded, but it was mixed with some joy. Xiao Yan was slightly moved, but he didn't say anything. With the identity of the Great Elder, he believed that the heavens must have told him about Yuve Mu's appearance. "Great Elder is praising me too much. It was a coincidence that I was able to defeat Kang Feng." Xiao Yan cupped his hands and said in a low voice, "How can there be any coincidences in this world? Everything is destined. However, although you have defeated Yuve Mu's plan, you have also been affected by the Soul Demon. In the future, there will be endless troubles." At the same time, the Great Elder's figure appeared in the hall. In a flash, he had arrived in front of Xiao Yan. "Karma." Xiao Yan mumbled to himself and straightened his body. He had long been mentally prepared for such an outcome. Now that he heard what the Great Elder said, he wasn't too surprised. "No wonder. Your own strength is too weak. The more karma you have, the heavier the karma. If you reach the Supreme Saint realm, you won't even have a problem killing Yuve Mu, let alone defeating Yuve Mu's plan." The Great Elder looked older than before, but the smile on his face was even friendlier. He patted Xiao Yan's shoulder gently and said with a smile. Xiao Yan smiled but didn't say anything. Regarding this kind of karma, he had no idea what was going on. Only experts at the level of Great Elder would be involved in this. "This is the origin of the flame spirit. I've refined it with the crystal chi that the heavens have rewarded me. Even if it can't reach the peak grade, it's still considered top grade. As for how much it can be refined, it will depend on your ability." The first elder waved his withered hand and a cluster of pink fire source appeared in his hand. The moment it appeared, the fire source chi in this area immediately became wild and violent. The surging lava seemed to have been stimulated as it roared intensely. The temperature of the entire space soared. There were even traces of melting on the surrounding rock walls. Xiao Yan carefully received the pink fire source. It was like a flame, like an origin chi. It seemed to possess an unknown force that caused one's heart to tremble. Just by holding it in his hand, one could feel the origin chi within his body crazily roaring. "Let's go into the magma, just like last time." The Great Elder gently turned around and appeared on the stone bridge like a gentle breeze. He pointed at the surging magma below and looked at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan unleashed the Starlight Silent Step and arrived next to the Great Elder almost instantly. He looked at the magma below and raised his eyebrows. Under the influence of the source of flame spirit, the magma was like a violent giant beast. It roared wildly and collided with the surrounding rock walls, causing the rock walls to turn into molten iron that flowed down. Its power was comparable to an ordinary monarch spell. "Kai." The first elder glanced at Xiao Yan in an indifferent manner. He was also slightly stunned by the speed that the latter had displayed earlier. Immediately, he laughed softly. He waved his hand and a jade-green lotus flower appeared on the magma below. "Cultivate properly. How much you can obtain will depend on your luck." First elder waved his sleeve and directly entered the large hall. The large door also slowly shut. Xiao Yan was the only one left in this huge square. "Sit on the lotus." The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth twitched. He could see that the lotus didn't have any reinforcement from the origin chi. It was just an ordinary lotus. Although it strangely didn't turn into ashes on the magma, if one sat on it, if one's mind was unstable, it would shatter. Whoosh! Taking a deep breath, Xiao Yan did not hesitate. He tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and sat cross-legged on the lotus flower. The moment he sat on it, the lotus violently sank down. It was only a short distance away from the magma. Boom! Boom! The roar of the magma was like a furious thunder that poured into his ears. The high temperature caused sweat to flow down Xiao Yan's forehead. In a place like this, if he accidentally fell into the magma, even if he was able to come out alive, he would probably lose a layer of skin. After stabilizing his mind, Xiao Yan looked at the pink fire source in his hand. An excited light instantly surged into his eyes. Next, it was time for his strength to soar. Zero rumble. The surging red lava was like a huge wave that kept crashing onto the cliff at the side. A soul-stirring loud sound was heard. The blazing high temperature seemed to want to melt everything, causing this space to become an extremely pressurizing place of high temperature. On the continuously melting cliff, molten iron gurgled out and fell into the surging red lava, splashing hot waves of heat. Xiao Yan sat cross-legged on top of the green lotus. The blazing environment didn't affect him. The origin qi in his body was circulating steadily, maintaining his balance, allowing the roaring magma to flow underneath the green lotus. Sizzle sizzle. The pink fire source in his hand had already leapt in front of Xiao Yan. The boundless origin qi contained within it was slowly being emitted, causing all the hairs on Xiao Yan's body to stand on end. This strength was extremely terrifying. Buzz. Following a buzzing sound, Xiao Yan had already started circulating the burning spell in his body. It caused all the organs in his body to open up, and he began to absorb the boundless origin qi from the outside world. In an instant, as if he had received a call, an incomparably pure red origin qi emerged from the pink fire source, and covered Xiao Yan's entire body. Woo! Caught off guard, Xiao Yan's breathing abruptly stopped, and the feeling of swelling and pain that came from his meridians caused him to be unable to refrain from letting out a muffled groan. The majesty of this origin qi had still exceeded his expectations, and he never imagined that it would actually be so pure. Swoosh! Swoosh! Xiao Yan's hand seals changed rapidly. After a moment, the painful expression on his face slowly disappeared. Although this strength was extremely overbearing, the origin qi within his body could not be underestimated. After the yin and yang merged, it was sufficient to contain any wild and violent origin qi. Feeling the flow of the origin qi in his body, Xiao Yan could not help but let out a breath. An indescribable feeling of comfort arose in his heart. At this moment, his body seemed to have become much more lazy. Crackling sounds could be heard from all the limbs and bones in his body. Waves of energy spread out from within. Buzz! Buzz! Xiao Yan sat cross-legged on top of the green lotus. His eyebrows were relaxed as he enjoyed the comfortable feeling that surged over like a tidal wave. This kind of feeling, it had been a long time since he had experienced it. Voila! Within his body, the origin qi chains that were as thick as an arm kept roaring. The two chains that were flashing with a dim light crazily collided under the stirring of the origin qi, producing a loud and clear sound. The vibrating pure origin qis were all absorbed by all the cells, bones, muscles, and other parts of Xiao Yan's body, bringing about an unprecedented strengthening. Within the origin monarch crystal, a large number of origin qis continuously flowed into it. Within the open space, there were also countless origin qis whistling in. After that, they surged out from within and gradually turned into the embryonic form of a chain, gradually solidifying. Ka! A moment later, Xiao Yan's body suddenly shook. A surging wave of origin qis exploded. A shocking aura spread apart, causing the rock wall in the distance to tremble slightly. Layers of huge waves were formed from the lava below. Hot waves soared into the sky. When they were about to land on Xiao Yan's body, they were blocked by a powerful airflow and were unable to invade him at all. Rustle. A new origin chains appeared in Xiao Yan's body. It was interwoven with the other two chains. It contained an incomparably majestic origin qi, and it was emitting a shocking qi. A chain was formed. Xiao Yan's eyes were still closed, and he placed his hands on his knees. His 10 fingers formed a seal, and within the pink fire source in front of him, there were no signs of the pure origin qi being reduced. It continued to surge towards the former, and almost covered his entire body. Under the cover of this origin qi, Xiao Yan's robe was torn apart inch by inch, revealing his crimson skin. At this moment, it was boiling hot. His green meridians were clearly visible under the crimson skin, and it seemed as if his body was about to burst out. Even so, Xiaoyan's face was still calm. All the pores on his body were wide open, and he was greedily absorbing all the origin cheese. Dark World. In the main hall, Black Nether Emperor listened to Ji Yudun's narration with an indifferent expression. The fury that Ji Yudun expected did not appear. He merely smiled faintly and waved his hand. To be able to kill a spirit king, he is merely an ant in my eyes. It's enough for me to know the news about him. After saying that, Black Nether Emperor stood up from his seat and looked at Ji Yudun. He looked at Hong Xing, who was behind Ji Yudun, and nodded slightly. Sect Master Hong, I have something to discuss with you. After saying that, Black Nether Emperor walked towards the depths of the hall. Hong Xing pondered for a moment and followed after him. Once we deal with Hong Xing, the great undertaking of our emperor will be just around the corner. After Hong Xing left, a white-haired old man, who was originally standing beside Black Nether Emperor, slowly spoke. His voice formed a thin line that entered Ji Yudun's ears. There was a hint of fanaticism in his voice. It's a pity that the Spirit King is dead. Otherwise, the 7 kings of the chaotic crowd would be here. Ji Yudun seemed to have changed into another person. His eyes were gloomy and his expression was cold. With the capability of our emperor, these people are enough. Even if the people of the sky-burying cult and the profound sovereign cult come to their senses, the overall situation has already been decided. They won't be able to change anything. The dragon-headed cane in the old man's hand lightly tapped the ground, and his tone was fanatical. If one were to look carefully, both his and Ji Yudun's eyes were filled with an undetectable darkness. May I know what business you have with me, my lord? In the secret chamber in the depths of the hall, Hong Xing's eyes sparkled. He glanced at the strange secret chamber that looked like a valley, then looked at Black Nether Emperor who was standing not far away from him and said in a deep voice, "There's no rush. I'll let you see a few people first." Black Nether Emperor's tone was calm. He raised his right hand slightly and waved his 5 fingers. Instantly, the sound of air being torn apart could be heard. A few figures flashed out from the forest in the distance. They stood next to Black Nether Emperor like controlled puppets, motionless. Ancient barbarian of the Blood Barbarian tribe. Yu Mei Ur of the Heavenly Enchantment. The Azure Dragon tribe's Shen Kang Long. Why is he here? After recognizing the identities of these people, Hong Xing's facial expression changed, and he couldn't help but cry out in shock. These people were all the leaders of the top 10 sects in the chaotic 100 sects, and all of them had reached the Emperor cultivation. They were all great figures who were rarely seen in the world, so why were all of them here? In order to invite these people, I have spent a lot of effort. The sect masters of the Azure Dragon sect and the Blood Barbarian sect are all here. Oh, right. It is such a pity to lose the leader of the Spirit King gang. Black Nether Emperor slowly turned around and pointed at the 6 people beside him. He looked at Hong Xing and said with an expressionless face, "Come on, Leader Hong. You are the only one left. What do you want?" Hearing this, Hong Xing suddenly felt a tingling sensation on his back. He could not help but take a few steps back. His expression was ferocious. "Are these people controlled by you? What do you think?" The corner of Black Nether Emperor's mouth raised slightly. He lightly snapped his fingers. The 5 people behind him seemed to have heard a call. They all rushed forward and surrounded Hong Xing with expressionless faces. "Black Nether Emperor, you!" Seeing this scene, Hong Xing's forehead was instantly covered with sweat. In the next moment, as if he had thought of something, he roared at the top of his voice. "I finally understand. Why didn't the group of old fogies of the Dark World oppose you? Why did you control so many people? They only used a little trick. A bunch of things that only know how to nag is completely useless. The few of you are the true combat strength that I need." Black Nether Emperor revealed a mocking smile. He stretched out his hand and pointed it at Hong Xing. His cold voice slowly sounded, "Come on. Follow me and you will become my true combat strength. This domain, no, the supreme ruler of this world." 0 In the dark and deep underground square, hot wind was blowing, and the red lava around the square kept hitting the walls of the stone wall, creating a mind-blowing sound in the square. Pa! A huge bubble suddenly exploded, causing magma that was a couple of meters tall to splash out. It charged towards Xiaoyan, who was seated cross-legged on the green lotus. However, It was blocked by the dense origin chi that surrounded Xiao Yan's body. It was unable to invade him in the slightest. Xiao Yan's eyes were tightly shut. Waves of white fog rose from the top of his head. The majestic origin chi within his body wreaked havoc, and it seemed as if it was going to crush his meridians. Waves of swelling spread from his limbs and bones, causing blue veins to pop up on Xiao Yan's neck. As time passed, the origin chi within the flame spirit source became even more violent. Even the origin chi, which had fused with yin and yang, had a weak feeling. Hiss. Xiao Yan took a deep breath. His expression remained unchanged. However, he couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. The source of the flame spirit was truly worthy of being a treasure that even heavenly sovereign expert needed to spend a lot of effort to condense. The energy contained within was simply too great. Up until now, he had only refined a small portion of it. His strength had already risen layer by layer like he was riding a roller coaster. He was about to break through to the fourth monarch emperor. A trace of delight flashed across the corner of Xiao Yan's eyes. His body was perfectly straight. The origin chi in his body, which was a combination of yin and yang, was far beyond the origin chi in an ordinary human body. It had a unique condition to contain the energy within the flame spirit source, allowing him to use it 100%. If he were to absorb such a wild and violent energy, the increase in his strength would definitely exceed his expectations. Xiao Yan is back? Elder Xiao stepped into the hall and asked loudly the moment he entered. Elder Xiao only revealed a relaxed expression when he saw Su Ziyang nod his head. It seems like my senses are correct. I heard from his two friends that this guy went to Capital of Chaos, causing me to break out in a cold sweat. You have underestimated that kid. He was able to kill a spirit king. How many people are there in the Capital of Chaos? Su Ziyang smiled and put down the scroll in his hand. He then stood up and started to walk around the hall. He killed the spirit king? A hint of surprise surged onto Elder Xiao's aged face when he heard this. Then, he laughed loudly and said, "Great. Great. This guy really dares to do it. Well done." Su Ziyang pondered for a moment before he gently stroked his chin and said, "The Spirit King is dead." If this was in the past, it would definitely shock the entire Capital of Chaos. But now, the Capital of Chaos has changed. A few days ago, the Great Elder went out to find Heaven's surmounting monarch and profound emperor who were in secluded cultivation. He was one of the two Qi Bai elders. The current Yunluo Academy could be said to be the weakest stage in recent years. I'm just afraid that the storm in Capital of Chaos will affect this place. After listening to Su Ziyang's words, Elder Xiao recovered from his ecstasy and nodded his head silently. He naturally knew what Su Ziyang was talking about, and what kind of situation the Yunluo Academy was in right now. But it's also possible that I'm overthinking it. A few days ago, many experts of the Capital of Chaos in the Yunluo Academy's grand feast, the heavens had given everyone a holy mantra. It should be able to deter some people with ill intentions. Su Ziyang shook his head. With his hands behind his back, he kept walking in the hall. I hope so. Elder Xiao crossed his arms across his chest and said in a low voice, Black Nether Emperor's sudden appearance has caused the Capital of Chaos to be filled with a foul atmosphere for a short period of time. No one knows what he is up to. No matter what, the Capital of Chaos is currently occupied by all kinds of powers. I think we should call back all the students who have gone out. Su Ziyang pursed his lips when he heard this. In the end, he still nodded his head in agreement, although he wanted to let the students gain some experience. Under these circumstances, safety was still more important. Don't worry, even if Black Nether Emperor is able to rule most of the Capital of Chaos with his absolute strength, the leaders of the top 10 gangs in the chaotic Capital of Chaos aren't vicious and unruly people. They can't be tamed with just their strength alone. With just the dark underworld, even if Black Nether Emperor were to attack them personally, he won't pose any threat to the Yunluo Academy. Elder Xiao smiled lightly and said indifferently. The Yunluo Academy had been standing in the Capital of Chaos for such a long time, so he had already memorized all of these gangs. You're right, the Yunluo Academy also has a grand formation protecting them, but I was worrying for nothing. Su Ziyang nodded his head and didn't say anything else. He pinched his fingers and suddenly turned his head to look at Elder Xiao. Xiao Yan has gone to accept the source of the fire spirit. It will take at least a month. Don't disturb him these days. With the protection of the Great Elder's clone, there shouldn't be any danger. Of course I know that. Elder Xiao nodded and left the main hall. He was in charge of all the work in the inner courtyard of the Yunluo Academy. In the face of the capital of chaos, which had changed, it was necessary to strengthen the defense of the Yunluo Academy. Sigh. Su Ziyang shook his head as he watched Elder Xiao leave. He sighed softly. At present, among the students of the realm in Valley, Mu Yuyang and Lin Dao, the two strongest guys, had left a long time ago. However, there was still Xiao Yan, Xiao Yi and Wu Shaoqi, the three monarch emperor. Their overall strength should only be stronger than before. If there was an emergency, these people should be able to handle it. That granddaughter of Elder Wu, the results of her cultivation these few days are quite great. Su Ziyang rubbed his chin and thought for a while. Then he smiled. Mu Yuyang and Lin Dao left, and Xiao Yan and Wu Shaoqi appeared. He was quite satisfied. In the south of the star field, in a giant vein that stretched for 100,000 miles, the heaven-receiving peak was layered with layers of giant peaks. The endless dense forest was from the ancient times. Many of the giant peaks were barren and full of rocks. All of these places were caused by the cultivation of powerful experts. The powerful origin qis that attracted them destroyed everything like a tornado. Boom! In the endless forest, a bolt of lightning suddenly soared into the sky, pushing aside layers of dark clouds. It was like the cry of a phoenix in the 9 heavens. Countless bolts of lightning rolled down and destroyed almost all of the mountain peaks within a 1,000-mile radius, turning them into scorched earth. The countless spirit beasts that lived within them wailed as the weak directly turned into ashes and dissipated. Swoosh! After a moment, the lightning that filled the sky finally came to a stop. At the same time, a figure leapt up from the valley below and stood on the peak of the highest mountain peak. Xiao Tianye's eyes were cold as he looked at the mountain peak that had been struck by the lightning and turned into a barren land. His expression didn't change at all. He slowly raised his right hand and clenched his 5 fingers. An indescribable thunderstorm instantly exploded from his fist, causing the space around him to rumble. Amidst the buzzing of the lightning, one could vaguely see a small phoenix soaring in the sky, bringing along endless lightning to wreak havoc around Xiao Tianye's body. Great profound strong wind thunder. Not bad. After feeling the raging lightning origin qi in his body, Xiao Tianyi smiled. He spread his 5 fingers and the lightning in his hand slowly dispersed. Although his strength hadn't increased much after containing the great profound strong wind thunder, the origin qi within his body had reached an extremely high level. Even if he was at the emperor cultivation, his portion of the origin qi would be. It was also enough to fight against an ordinary emperor cultivation's 10% origin qi. I heard some good news from those old bastards of the Thundercloud clan. Capital of Chaos. A pair of indifferent eyes passed through the layers of giant mountains and looked into the distant horizon. Xiao Tianyi raised his brows and a cold killing intent instantly emerged from his body. After that, he threw his head back and laughed. With a sway of his body, he rushed towards the sky. The giant mountain that he was standing on almost shattered into pieces, sending rocks flying everywhere.